Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. My name is Valerie Hope, and I am your host as well as your coach for Time to Come Alive. Ooh, I feel like there should be like jazz hands and confetti, especially because I have a jazz hands and confetti kind of guest today that I'm going to have an opportunity to really share with. So right now, I really want to make sure that we take some time to, I think there's some audio interference. Give me a second here.
And I just minimized my screen in hopes that that was what was going to, I
that
think that
might have been.
I apologize.
Okay, there it is.
Hey, this is so fun. This is how you learn, everybody. This is how you make it happen.
So as we get into this conversation, before we get into it, there's a few things that I want to make sure that you all do. One is to share this. If you're watching this live, please share this with on your page, on your timeline, share with your friends, because it might be a conversation that you can then follow up with. If you want some good content for dinner this evening or for lunch tomorrow or for work, this is the kind of conversation that's going to give you something meaningful to talk about. And I know because I've had great conversations with my guests, and you don't want to miss it. And I want to make sure that you also prepare yourself to listen to this conversation. And the way I do that is by doing some mindfulness, because I believe that the best way for us to really come alive, right, and this is the time to do it, is to be more conscious, really understand ourselves better. And when we're more conscious, we're better able to connect with other people. And once we become conscious and connected, we're able to create some amazing things. And that's the purpose. So I'm going to prepare your listening today by taking you through a very brief mindfulness exercise. And the mindfulness exercise simply requires you to sit or wherever you're standing, to be comfortable, make sure that your feet are flat, planted on the ground, and that you really take some deep breaths. The main thing is to just exhale slowly. That will help center and focus you. You don't have to close your eyes, but if you choose to, you may, if you're in a safe place, of course. But it also helps maybe to unfocus your gaze just a bit. You want to try to look inward mentally. And for this conversation, I really want you to think about someone in your life, especially someone from the past. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, perhaps a mentor or teacher. Someone from your past who you know loves you or loved you. They might be alive, they may not be, but really think of someone who loves you, expressed love to you. Have that person in mind. Keep that person in mind. And now I also want you to think about someone in your present, someone that is with you in your life today, someone that loves you, someone that expresses that love and care for you. Hold them in your mind. And lastly, I want you to think about someone who will love you in the future. Again, that might be a future spouse, it might be a future child, it might be some other relationship that you have, but a future relationship in which you see is growing into love. It's someone in your future that will be generating love. And as you hold all these three relationships, individuals in your mind, I want you to just take a couple of deep breaths and just relax into the love that they are generating, or they have generated, or they will generate for you. All the while, they are saying to you, may you live with ease, may you be happy, and may you be free from pain. I want you to think to yourself, them saying these words to you, may you live with ease, may you be happy, and may you be free from pain. One more time, may you live with ease, may you be happy, may you be free from pain. Take another couple of deep breaths. Send love back to those voices or back to those individuals that are in your past and your present and your future. And then refocus your gaze or open your eyes, and you're back with us. Okay.
Awesome.
So I want to, first of all, just very quickly introduce my guest, and then I will share with you, because part of this conversation has already taken place in the past, and we'll explain why in just a moment. But Teresa Snider, I met back in, so we said 4 years ago, I think, Teresa, 2015, 2016. And what I really loved about her, we were in a workshop together. She was a coach within this workshop, and I was one of the participants. Throughout the workshop, we had an opportunity to select a coach to work with to really implement some of the concepts that we were learning. But more than that, we had the option to select who we wanted to work with. So the coaches all presented themselves. And I remember you, Teresa, being like this radiance up on stage, first of all, because overall the course is pretty, I wouldn't say serious, but, people are working on communication skills, and it's very an intellectual endeavor, right? We're really using our brains to really think through and break through some of the limitations that we have in communication. And I really remember how you just showed up as this ray of sunshine, always so happy, big smile on your face. And when you shared that you'd worked in entertainment and that you also running your own business, I, at the time, didn't know that I would be interested in any of those things. But I thought, oh, she seems like the right person for me to talk to. And that's when I went to you and I decided that you were going to be my coach for the rest of that workshop. And it's been so much fun ever since, because since then we've been connected in different projects. And most recently, obviously, I follow you on social media. And I know you're up to big things, which we're going to talk about as well. But I thought today was such a special opportunity to speak with you, because you're working on your own stuff to come alive. And you've had some things happen in your life that have brought this level of light. Your light has grown a lot sharper, a lot brighter in the last few years. So that's one thing I want to talk to you about. But before we go into that, and I keep saying that, I keep teasing, before we go into that, I want to say, excuse you, I'm going to put a pin on that for a second, and I want to just be upfront, because some of you may be seeing, like, didn't this happen already? And you would be right, because Teresa and I had time scheduled yesterday to do Time to Come Alive, and my audio was shot for whatever reason, was not working, and I just could not put it out to the world because you couldn't hear me and you couldn't hear the questions. And Teresa, you sounded phenomenal, and the questions and the answers you gave were great, and I didn't want that to be a missed opportunity for someone out there for whom you might be a contribution. Because that's one of the things that you said over and over throughout our conversation, is how important it was for you to contribute to others. And so in my mind, I needed to do a do-over, and also because I knew there are people who would benefit from hearing this message rather than just letting it go. So thank you so much for your lovely presence and willingness to do this again.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I think it's so apropos, because life is still going to happen. And that's the thing. I'm involved in quite a few different masterminds and a lot of different trainings. I still coach, I still lead, I do all these things. And that's what we've got to really be present to. And I believe you may be even you may have been the one that said it during the interview yesterday, despite trauma, despite people, that have gone through and lost a spouse, an unexpected death, all those things, they're still going to show up. So when you really dive in and look at the grand scheme of this, that the audio was missing, to me, it's still a divine appointment for whatever reason. And we may or may not really ever know. And the thing is that I think that you fill up my cup and remind me whenever those days of like, God, am I really making a difference? Is anybody really listening to what I'm, saying or sharing? It is no joke. Like, I would imagine somebody that's like a parent. Now that's a pretty much extreme, but I'm saying, like, you're somebody that selected me to be your coach that weekend, and just were like clicked, and we were on, and you've done such great things. So it makes me so excited and so proud.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I am too. I mean, I think some of the things that you're out there doing, you really show especially knowing now your background a little more, I can see how you really just found a way to carve a path for yourself and continue to do so. And that's one of the things that excites me so much. And those are the guests that I find I want to connect with. And when we talk about being more conscious, being connected, I find that connecting to people who have not just overcome adversity, because I think all of us could say we qualify for that, every one of us and alive on this planet. The fact that we came through a birth canal that was this small or maybe even smaller. I don't know how big our birth canal is, but I guess it's but the fact that we just survived that process, we survived 9 months without having any control whatsoever over what was going to happen on the other side, I think is overcoming adversity. But I think what I really appreciate about you was some of the things that we'll be talking about later, but that you, in spite of all the things that the twists and turns that your life has taken, has continued to find a way to keep the spark lit or to light the spark when it blows out. And I think that's what we all need these days. There's so many forces that are trying to blow out that candle, right? Blowing out that or diminishing that spark. And you find a way to light it up again and to take it to the next level. So that's what I think is inspiring, and that's the contribution that you've been making in my world, and definitely in the world of the people that I see that you connect with.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
It's very, very, very important that we do that. And whenever you know that you have a little bit of there's say in the matter, you can actually create things. And there's plenty of people that have gone through traumatic experience, bad experience, whatever the case may be. And it's just like you said, overcome adversity and then take it one step further to where we don't get stuck in kind of a victim mentality.
Absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit. First of all, I just want to know what's making you today share and continue to move forward. Like, where does that come from? Where does that drive and desire come from?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one specific instance was whenever I was at a workshop that someone was leading, that you and I probably know, inside of, like, the conversation came up and it was like, share with your partner at a time, or share with your partner, you know what I mean? Like paired sharing kind of stuff. And it's like, what is something that you are so just, embarrassed by, or you don't like to talk about, or you want to hide and put it in the closet, lock all the doors and all that kind of stuff. So, in that particular moment, I just remember I was crying and just really emotional. And then it came time for the leader to kind of say, okay, what's going on with some of you? Who wants to share? And I really got present to the fact that I hadn't really let go of the idea that I was a recovered alcoholic. That was still like, I felt broken. I still felt that level of shame, that people are going to find out that was something that I had, a problem with. And it's like, and they say in 12-step recovery that it's not really the alcohol, that's yet a symptom, so there's just a lot. So anyway, in that particular moment, when that leader had me share and I'm just crying and just couldn't hardly gain composure, she said, let me ask you this. When you share, the truth sets you free. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is yes, you may not want to share, but when the truth sets you free, then don't be stingy with that experience, because you can save someone else's life. You can be a contributor. You can literally help somebody that right now today may be feeling isolated, alone, confronted, confused. And that's finally how I kind of got over that really big hurdle. People may not see that would have been a hurdle, but that was a hurdle. Like Brene Brown is one of my favorites, and Brene Brown talks about shame, and we have got to be able as humans to relinquish that shame that we feel.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, so to give people some context, right? You at that moment realized how much you were holding on to because of the shame that you felt. You're holding on to this notion that being a recovered alcoholic was something to be embarrassed about, not to speak up. and someone encouraged you to just begin to share this story or begin to share your experience. What was the experience? Now that you're more open to sharing about it, what was the experience and how was it impacting your life that it got to the point where you were ashamed?
So the marker for me, like, in some of this, it's going to seem like I'm repeating it because we've had some of this conversation, but I really want the viewers to get the full thing. So,
I'm starting this from scratch. We're creating right here.
Right.
Right?
We're going,
Conscious, connect, create.
Yeah, it's like a conscious conversation, all brand new. And
totally.
Yeah. And so, like, the really kind of things that I've worked through is, I was born in a small town, and, looking back now through therapy or through different kinds of programs, my parents were fantastic and they were doing the best they can. And for whatever reason, the 5, 6, 7-year-old little girl, I thought they didn't really plan me, so I'm a mistake. So it starts then. It starts with the little girl. And they never said that. They never told me that. They never pursued that. They did encourage me to be the best. They did encourage me to go to college. They did encourage me to travel the world, do some of the things, because they wanted my life. And I think most parents want this. They want their child's life to end up better than their own. And then so I went through high school and I was an overachiever, great grades, involved in everything, played sports, went to college, was president of my sorority. So the alcohol part didn't happen young for me. I was busy living. I was climbing the career ladder, and I went into medical sales, and I was a corporate sales exec climbing what I would say corporate ladder. For those that don't know, I just was living by someone else was going to show me they loved me by giving me promotions or awards, or whatever the case may be. So
your work was your identity.
Yes, my work was my identity. That's great, Valerie. Yes, my work was my identity, and it was one thing that I thought it will set me apart, that I'm not just another girl that ended up getting pregnant and all that stuff, which again, why I made that up, I don't really know, but it still defined me. It gave me a way to set myself apart. And I married my corporate career. I married a career or careers. And so, there's an aspect of, I'm sure, that I, at one point was talk about hustle. And nowadays I'm like, gosh, can we take the word hustle out of our vocabulary? And that's so, for me, alcohol wasn't the problem then. It's when all of those things started, quote unquote, falling apart. The wheels were coming off. The market crashed. So the financial, as anybody that's an adult at this point and remembers, 2008, 2009, when literally the stock market crashed and things changed. And I lost my corporate job, and I thought I was the only one. I really did. I thought, oh my gosh, I married my career. I've always worked hard, and now I was part of a large layoff. 70% of the company was laid off, but still I'm over there going, it's just me.
Very personal. Yeah, the pain is personal. Pain is definitely
that is good. Pain. Say more about that. Pain is personal.
Pain is personal. Well, in your case, what you just described, right? Although 70% of the workforce was laid off, everyone had their own experience with pain. For some people, it may have been a relief because, hey, good, I've been wanting to leave, and now I get a severance or whatever. But I think the idea of pain being personal is that we take. I can't speak for everybody, but I imagine that many of us take some experience, especially if something that was out of our control. I know that's happened to me, and we become the victim of whatever it was that hurt us, harmed us, or inconvenienced us, challenged us, right? This is silly, and I don't want to go too far away, but back to that question about what I meant by it. When we're driving on the highway, and there's a huge slowdown. And here in Dallas, Texas, it happens almost every day. Something happens. It's not that, oh my goodness, all of these people around us are suffering. They're all wanting to get to work on time. Oh my goodness. It's like, who's this loser that's holding up traffic? I need to get to. Pain is personal. That's
yes. Oh, that is hilarious. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And yes, we just like, it's like right here where it's like, you know, even in the world of some of the things we've done together, it's like perspective. It's like, I see this coffee with cup with the mug, you know, and you don't. We're just like, meh, meh, meh. Or we're the person that's, you know, the coffee in the cup, and we don't really see the full value and greatness of the whole picture. And it's like, I'm in, what do you see? What are you seeing? Anyway, the pain is personal. That is so good. Yeah. Pain is personal.
I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Trademark. I think if you say that, TM. If you say it out loud, then it's legal.
It is. I know, it is. We're gonna
but continue.
Yes. So, yeah, and it wow. So when that happened, you know, a lot of things started to unfold and come, and I was engaged at the time, and his career changed, my career changed, and there were just a lot of things that weren't working, even though we were both amazing people and we had different kind of goals from that standpoint. And so the long short version of it is that literally was 6 weeks until the day I was going to have this magnificent, beautiful dream wedding. And we amicably decided that was going to be all for the glory of the story of the wedding. And I caught a lot of flack for that, a lot, because things were in place and it came time to mail invitations and we had not been getting along. I still wanted to travel to Dallas. I still wanted to go back and find another some kind of career and travel the world, you know. And for him, and I don't want to speak for him at all. I mean, I've made an amends. I've like kind of closed that chapter. He's happily married or whatever. There's just stuff that transpired during all of that. But I'm telling you, for a female to say, yeah, it's looking like about a $50,000 wedding and we're doing it the glory of the story. It's not looking at the marriage. We're not looking at the relationship by design. So
it sounds like, Teresa, that from what you just said, from the moment of birth, and you created this story about not being wanted, it almost feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you over time have been trying to prove yourself and prove your worth to other people, being an overachiever, you know, going out and getting this great career, you know, being in a relationship with this wonderful person, having this storybook wedding in the works. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, 100%, 100%. You know, and that again is like things are falling apart and I couldn't grasp how to magically put them together, glue them together, continue wearing a mask per se. You know, I've got it going on, whatever that looked like. And again, people didn't, I mean, I'm sure people were concerned whenever it came time to be concerned about the amount of alcohol I began drinking, you know, and it's just like, I was still putting on a good front. I got it. I'm good. I didn't want to ever be the girl that said I'd ever experienced any kind of depression or that any kind of setback. So yes, not wanted, and didn't feel like I could trust people because I have plenty of evidence to prove that you can't. So, yeah.
Okay. And so tell us about when the drinking started and what was it in response to? Like when I imagine you were doing social drinking well before, but tell us when you started to notice it was to self-medicate.
Yes, is that whenever it was all kind of falls together. It was 2010, and I lost my job and was missing out or ending a relationship, a love relationship. So that's when it was just like, it was game on. And it was, and partly because some of the things in medical sales or in sales careers, I mean, it was kind of like, that was the norm. And again, I'm not blaming, I'm just saying it was kind of the norm. I mean, I think alcohol is so glamorized in Western, you know, in Western culture and potentially everywhere else, you know. Here it's like you look at billboards, advertisements, professional teams, football teams. I mean, the consumption of alcohol is very glamorized. Every party, every social. So, you know, I had really just started taking that on. And so I started becoming a fancy wine drinker. And that was really what I enjoyed. And then I started realizing, wow, it calms me down. It relaxes me. People would even suggest, go home. I know you like this, whatever job situation or the end of an engagement, and go take a hot bath, go, you know, people even gifted me wine bottles. I mean, bottles of wine, you know, housewarming gifts or engagement party gifts and all that. And then, so that was 2010. And then 2011 was the year, and it was because I was turning 40. And that is what I would consider a quote unquote midlife crisis. I wasn't married. I didn't have the 2.2 kids. I no longer had the big job and the big salary. So all the things that I could at least say that I had on the outside, you know, and I tell people that I was trapped in the golden handcuffs, because now in hindsight, it really wasn't the career path that I necessarily wanted to be on, especially as the dynamics of everything was changing and the pharmaceutical industry is changing. I think there's some definite great things about the industry. And then there's some things that I experienced with some of the men that I worked for, some of the diversity sometimes of upper echelon. And then, but then you've got just the creepy people, whatever. I mean, I don't, again, I try so hard not to blame people for what happened. So 2011, I was turning 40 that year. And June, Father's Day, was the first time I'd ever thought I really wanted and needed to take alcohol to a Father's Day, my parents, my home, where all my family was going to be, because none of them drink. They didn't really, they just didn't. They did when I was a kid. My dad stopped drinking at one point when he was 7. When I was 7, we got baptized together. You know, we've then become very good Christian, a great, you know, upbringing from that standpoint. And yeah, so that was June. And then July was the kicker. That July was when I was turning 40. And July I was set to go to Indianapolis to receive an award for my sorority for being outstanding general advisor for young college girls. And I was going to go to this, I had it imagined in my head, and I think it is, but this Indianapolis beautiful setting with all these like celebrated women, and I was going to win. I'm like, talk about shame and not worthy. So I bought new clothes, of course, put the luggage, checked it all in on the at the airport, and just really I couldn't even breathe. And I came home, and my friends knew then, because I had gotten a dog sitter, somebody to watch my house and water my plants in the summer. And I just came home, and that was the true marker. So my friends came to my house in July 12th. I kind of got my bearings straight. Then my 40th birthday, they helped me celebrate. They're amazing. They even had, a celebration. We're not going to have alcohol at this particular birthday party, unlike some of my other birthday parties, in the past. And yeah.
Let me just get this straight. So there was this moment where you were going to be honored for all of this achievement that you've been working so hard in your life to produce. And you got to the airport ready to go, and you didn't go on the trip. Is that what I heard?
That is correct.
You like left her luggage, or you got your luggage back? Like, hope you got your luggage back.
And that was a whole trick in and of itself, because it went on.
Okay.
It went to Indiana.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So what was the thought? I mean, I know this is, we're focusing a little on the past, but I'm just wanting to give those who are listening some context for the state of mind that drove you to that bottom. So what was it in your mind? You mentioned shame, guilt, I don't deserve this prize or this recognition or to win or whatever. But what was it in your mind that said, I can't even go? Like, I'm going to go do what exactly?
Mm-hmm. I didn't care what, honestly. I just thought I can't go, and it was performance anxiety maybe.
Mm.
And that maybe whenever I look back and, and I don't talk about it too terribly much. I do in situations like this, in the sense that it could be a contribution, is that that's what I'd worked for, and now I was achieving it. And I thought, but I've lost my job, I've canceled my wedding, and now I'm going to be awarded that I'm a role model for young women, 20, 21, 22-year-old women. How in the world can I be a role model? I wouldn't want them to end up in the space that I'm in right now, checking, a big bag full of fancy clothes to go get an award that I didn't feel like I deserved. I'm like, how can I be a role model for those girls?
Yeah.
So that's really what it was. Yeah, it was like, I really, yeah.
I hear some sadness in your voice. What is the sadness?
Because I loved helping them so much and inspiring them and empowering them, but I also thought, was I giving them the wrong advice, in the sense of, am I being I don't think it went this extreme, but I mean, am I being a feminist Nazi telling them not to get married or whatever, right? Especially, in that part of the country where I live, in Texas, and, the Bible Belt, there's certain expectations on women. And, I hadn't necessarily followed that. And I don't know if I'd be curious what it's like for you as a female, and like, there's a certain level of a standard that we're supposed to be identified by being a wife, or or a mom, or domestic, or whatever. And I'm thinking, how am I empowering these young girls?
Yeah. So it sounds like what you were feeling at the time is that, have I really messed them up? Like the thoughts that you were having about what life should be were not matched. Your life didn't match that anymore. And that's what you'd been guiding them to do. And now, like, you don't even represent this anymore. So how can you, like, put that? It just didn't align. But I'm curious about, this was in 2011? 2011. I'm curious about the sadness that is bringing you right now. What is the sadness that's bringing you this moment?
Is that I think it's been an interesting day today. And I think maybe because of the conversation that we started yesterday, right? That some of these things that we kind of went there, and it's like, when you allow yourself to go there and really be present to what it is, that maybe I hadn't thought, that was I misguiding them? And really at my core, my instinctual feeling is absolutely not. Just like coaching you or coaching other people, it's like, we talked briefly just for a second about the imposter syndrome, and it's kind of like, I still want people to be able to make strong decisions for themselves, and maybe that they could learn that they can choose powerfully whatever their future look like. So I haven't been in a place until just now, being with you in this conversation, that I realized that's why I couldn't get on that plane that day. That's the whole reason. like, and, you know, of course, the international office is like, I mean, I'm really screwed up there. Awards, not, I mean, they were given several awards, you know, but I told them that I'm sick. And I was, you know, not willing or not able, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and my friends knew how excited I was and how much I'd poured into representing young college girls. And and I was also in a transition at that time where, you know, people were saying, yeah, you spent $150,000 on a college degree or a master's degree. And, you know, see, college really isn't all that in a bag of chips after all, because of no longer being in corporate. So, yeah, I'm just...
Cool. Well, I mean, I guess the good news is that 8 years later, they'll know that you weren't sick. If you're connected to them on Facebook, they will know. They'll find out. But I think more importantly, I don't mean to make light of it, but I do find that, you know, it's so interesting the things that we hold on to, you know, and the meaning that we assign those instances. Because from my perspective now, you know, fast forward 8 years later, that I see you as a person who has shaken off the expectations from the outside world for the most part. And that's what you are ahead of the curve, first of all. There's so many people. And we all know that 40 is a magical age for many of us. It really is. It is transformational, I think especially for women, but I imagine that there's so many opportunities for us to really take stock in like where we are in life and like who we are. I think for me, I was married and divorced before I was 30 years old when I married, and I divorced like 3 years later. But secretly a part of me, and I dealt with all my divorce and my ex-husband, and I have a wonderful friendship, but secretly for me it was like, whew, check that box. Right? I was like, I got married.
I literally had friends tell me that. They said, just get one under your belt. You know?
Literally and figuratively.
Wow. And I truly believe that some of them thought they could stand by me easier in a divorce than actually stopping a wedding.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? But think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that women put so much emphasis on the day or the fairy tale, and well, maybe it'll work out after y'all do get married. There's still hope. Yeah, and I was going against the grain again, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to judge people that, right, that is so many, we've been indoctrinated in many cases from very young age about what that should look like. And not to judge that that's not a significant transition or a significant step in a demonstration of the faith, love, commitment, family. I mean, all of those things, part of it. I think what you're pointing to, Teresa, that's so important for us to not miss is that so up to that point, to that crisis that you had, so much of your life was measured by all the external trappings of success. Yes. And when those trappings, which were completely out of your control because you lost the marriage, because it takes two to want the marriage. It's not like you could just, let me just get this guy and you're just going to have to be there for whatever. You know, that doesn't happen. Well, not without some money.
Right.
Not without some money or crown or something.
Right, something. And I'm like.
But that was out of control, right? That's take two, it's a partnership. A company hires, again, a contractual relationship, at which any point they could decide to release. Again, out of your control, they made a decision. And then you have this experience of yourself where you've been given, you know, opportunities to influence and to mentor, and you thought, oh, now people are measuring the quality of mentorship by giving me this award that now I have to live up to this standard. So it sounds like so much of your life up to that crisis point was about living up to all these external standards that didn't necessarily fulfill and I'm guessing here, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like those standards were fulfilling. They were more like you said, the golden handcuffs. They were kind of trapped.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
All that to say, and I just want to keep us focused on the lining, right? On the horizon. Mm-hmm. That crisis point led to what exactly in your life? What happened from that moment? Like, I know I think there was a more dramatic crisis that occurred. Can you take us to that moment and then tell us kind of what was the impact of that?
Mm-hmm. And I didn't expect to be tearful at this particular part, but again, it's like whenever you go back and you revisit and you really allow your emotions to come out fully and you don't have to stuff anything down. So yes, same thing. It was, that July. So I didn't get on the plane July 12th, my birthday. It was turning 40 that year. And then I still was like thinking, like, I'm just a mess and life is just not going where I want and blah, 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 blah. And so September 16th on a Friday I think it's September 16th of 2011 on a Friday. That day I woke up to the sounds of ambulance. The sounds of the ambulance sirens. And I woke up not even really knowing what was going on. And then remembering that day was a day that I thought, I literally just want to drink myself to the point of death. Took sleeping pills.
Wow.
Yeah, sleeping pills and drink as much alcohol as my body could, I guess, tolerate. Shockingly, I can't imagine why I didn't get sick and all that, or whatever the case may be. Again, but my friends were concerned because there'd been a lot of me going and in and out of communication, a lot of hiding out, isolating, telling them I would be places, be accountable to people, be accountable to a schedule. And, and I was old model or whatever you want to call it. Like, I was kind of manipulating the situation because I just wanted all the pain to go away. And that's hence the reason why I ended up choosing alcohol and other things that weren't legal. Luckily, I didn't get trapped in that as far as like cocaine or something. But anyway, so that was my whole reason for the alcohol. And then, so my parents came and I begged the doctors not to tell or release any information about the alcohol content, and so, and they told them that they told my aunt that they were very surprised that I lived through it. Still, it was all about me. I was still in my pity party and woe is me and look at all these things that have gone wrong and, this happened and that happened, drama. And then, it took until December. December 22nd, 2011 is my sobriety date. And the short version of that, and because I do want to get to the silver lining, is that I had my favorite white BMW car and I'd gone out in the horrible, horrible, terrible snowstorm. All businesses and companies were closed and not even, but I thought I have to get to the liquor store because I won't be able to make it through a snowstorm without having alcohol. And when,
was this the day that you decided that you were going to drink yourself to death?
No, this was another time.
This was before that. Okay.
I know, that's like,
okay.
Yeah. Because you would think, wouldn't that be enough of a wake-up call in September? Wouldn't going by ambulance to the hospital be enough of a wake-up call? And still I get puzzled by how was it not? Because logically and intelligently, it didn't make sense. But emotionally, and the depths of what alcohol does to a person, or any kind of numbing out, whether it's shopping or another relationship, or how people eat chocolate. There's a lot of different coping mechanisms.
Potato chips.
Yeah, potato chips, the whole back, whatever, right? Just happens that alcohol really can provide severe consequences, more so than the potato chips. Yep, I can get some cellulite on my arms and all that, which I'm fine with. But yeah, that day,
Okay.
I rear-ended a family, and thank God everybody was okay. Thank goodness nothing traumatic happened. That was the wake-up call, because it was no longer about me and my pity party. It was about that I was affecting others. It was that I could have injured, I could have harmed, and I was doing that to my friends and family, but I didn't realize it, because I was just thinking, oh, y'all stop worrying about me. I'm okay. Miss Positive, independent. And yeah, they were struggling too, because they were having to keep up with, how am I doing, checking in, me being accountable, not being accountable. But that day in December was the day I realized the consequences were greater than me. And then
what have you done? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
So since that wake up call, what shifted exactly? What did it wake you up to do?
It woke me up to, it was that defining decision that it was like, I don't want it anymore. And for me, I consider it a spiritual experience in its own way. It wasn't like lights and music and halos and all that kind of stuff, but it was definitely a spiritual experience where God saved me from my own stuff. And it was a shift. It was a shift. It was like, I'm done. I can't do this. It's disgusting. I mean, it was like a family was in my, like right there in my presence. It was like no longer that I could harm myself. It was, I was harming others.
Got that.
So then I made that decision, and I got myself into a 12-step program. I got a sponsor, started going to Landmark and other transformational, getting in church or around certain faith-based people that I could trust. I started opening up and getting some things complete with my parents who just didn't understand, and again, course after course. And that was just like, wow. So it was just really life-changing moment. Life-changing.
So it's almost like the lights came on, right? That you literally just flipped the switch, and all of a sudden you could see, oh, this is what it's cost me to live this way, or to have these expectations, or to follow this path. And it sounds like you really found all these tools, resources to help you come out of that tunnel, right? To kind of get out of the coming out of the dark, right? Now, I want to shift gears a little bit, but you talk so much about how you've invested so much of your life and your time in presenting this great facade, right? This facade to people in your life growing up. You told me that you recently went to your 30th high school reunion. So I'm curious about it, because I think that's where the rubber meets the road, right? When you have that opportunity to come back full circle to where it started, where we all tend to have this mask on. I know for me, high school definitely was a place where I definitely wore masks. I didn't like to engage or want to engage. But what was it like going to your reunion, and what did that do for you, or for those that you interacted with?
Yeah, it was just a couple of weeks ago. And so right now, currently, as an entrepreneur, and again, taking on all of these different kinds of, books, and how I've been writing and taking on interviewing and having conscious conversations with people, and being a media host, and finding some passions. So going to my reunion, it was surreal in a way, yet it was like, wow, like I have so much to be grateful for. And it was exciting just to see people, and, and good, bad, or indifferent. A lot of people know my story, whether or not they heard about it through gossip, or they heard about it through Facebook or rumors, or they're, friends that are truly concerned, and they saw the setback became a comeback. And so that setback of 2011 became a comeback to where, again, I could find ways to have conversations with you because, you know, like this is a beautiful moment. And I never would have thought, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I want to finish that thought. I never would have thought.
Yeah, and I just never would have thought that I would have been here with you as somebody that I met in the center at a workshop, and that here we are paving the way for people, carving a path for others through a conversation.
Absolutely. I am curious though about you know, you mentioned some of the things that kept that mask in place and the experience that you had when you noticed that even talking about it brought shame. Where's the shame now?
Well,
not to say that it's some place that you put it somewhere, but how are you handling, or how are you working with or through this shame?
That's a great question. Is that I heavily surround myself with good, healthy people. I stay involved in a 12-step program. You know, I follow and read a lot of things by Brene Brown. I do mastermind groups with other like-minded individuals. The things that I choose, where I choose to spend my time, it's an elevated level of confidence, not confidence, an elevated level of consciousness. And it's not that it's better than, you know what I mean? Like, it's just different. It's a spiritual walk. It's a faith. It's a trust. I believe in hope, and I truly believe that God gives us tools and we can really manifest and do some things. So, you know, the shame comes up. It does. It obviously came up today, and it kind of came up unexpectedly. Yet there's just that one other little eye opener, right? Another discovery about it. Another conversation to be in with others. Because I have done some work around being complete, as we know some of the terminology of getting things complete or making amends. Some people are familiar with amends and work like that. It's like that I just a few weeks ago made a phone call to the international office of that sorority to be reinstated, to be able to help them again. And that I was nervous on the phone. And she's like, okay, we'll have to meet, council meets and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. You know, but for me to make that call, I mean, there's some completion, but not some completion to actually want to be reinstated, to really want to find a way to, again, I have a story, whether or not that's not my motive to share my story so much, but to be a contribution is my motive.
I love that you're saying this, because I think the misconception, especially when we're in the pain or in the shame, that we don't see how that can be catapulting for us to get to contribute something of meaning. I remember when I talked about my divorce, and what's funny, I had this moment, and I knew that the writing was on the wall, that the marriage was just not working, but I'd worked so hard to make it work. And I'm like, I put some elbow grease in this thing, I'm gonna make it work, no matter what.
Yes.
And he was like, no, it's not gonna work, I'm done. And I'm like, but wait, just one more thing, let's work through this. Anyhow, I remember I hadn't told anybody that he'd moved out of the house. I mean, it was like all kinds of stuff. And I remember, I'd always, I was raised by very strong human beings, both my parents, and I have 3 brothers, and, crying and sadness, I defined as a weakness when I was young. It was like, no, just get over it, make it work. And I remember specifically the day that I went to church this one day, and I actually sat in the parking lot for a while because I was just like, oh, I don't know, they're going to ask me like, oh, where's your husband? And I just didn't want to have to talk about it because I was just feeling particularly sensitive that day. And it so happened, and actually I'm thinking the story specifically because I saw one of the people that I told, and I went into church and, everybody's greeting and whatever. And I remember Rick Potter, and Rick, shout out to you. I know you're listening. That he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, how are you?" And, "Hey, where's your husband? We haven't seen him in a while." And I just remember, and it's been weeks at this point that I knew that the writing was on the wall. And I just said, "He moved out. We're getting a divorce." And it was just like,
I know, right?
It just rolled off my back. And what I was most afraid of was that I was going to feel bad and guilted, or like, really? Oh my gosh, you? And there was some pity or something. I just felt that it was going to show some level of weakness. But I remember him and his wife Gwen were just like, "Okay, how are you? You okay? We love you anyway." And I was just like, that's it. That's all. Not it from them, but I'm like, I was making this huge deal, like carrying this shame like a bag. I mean, it was like encased. It was in the satin pillow. It was like I had my shame on a satin pillow and a glass case, just carrying it around. She's like, "Don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. I'm not sharing this thing." And the moment that they said, and I just I just passed it on. And I said, "Here, this is what I'm embarrassed about. Here's what's happening." It was almost like the glass broke, and it just disappeared. And that was the beginning, right? So anyway, I say this because I think what you're pointing to is how so much can be gained. And I thank my lucky stars for that marriage and for the divorce. Mm-hmm. And it was as painful as heck to go through it, for sure. But I'm so grateful for it, because what it did is literally broke that case. Was not just a shame. That case was my heart. That case was my soul. That case was my joy. All of it was stuck in this little box that I had to really protect. And it just really broke me open and emotionally infused my life with so much joy and introspection. And it did so much for me. So I'm so grateful that your pain and your shame has turned to triumph, and that you're continuously finding a way to give it life, to give that and contribute that to other people, that freedom that you're gaining in the process. And by sharing your story, because I know even in our conversation about what we were going to talk about, this was something that you hadn't really put out there that often. Yes. So I'm so honored that you chose today and yesterday and me and Time to Come Alive to make that known. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love to just end by asking you to share what you're up to now. So I know there's something that's coming up for you that's really important. So if you could share what they need to know and how they can get a hold of you and all of that.
Okay, cool. And thank you. And I acknowledge you. You're fantastic. How you have a conversation that you just really are safe and encouraging. And you help. There's so much freedom in it. Like I literally was witnessing the glass breaking whenever you were sharing. That visual is so good. So thank you, Valerie. Mm-hmm. Huge acknowledgement for you. And yes, that I am a finalist in the Next Impactor, the competition. Yes, I'm like, well, and it really, and that's a whole nother interview conversation for the future. It's just that it's not about winning, like kind of how I have to prove myself, like I was sharing. It is now that it's about disabled humans that really they're coming alive. They are alive. And it's like I have connected with people that, I never would have expected. The problem.
What is the name of the organization?
So it is the Next Impactor. The Next Impactor, and the organization is Disabled But Not Really.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, disabled but not really. So my final challenge is to raise money, raise awareness, and the live finale is in Chicago. The deadline for donations is 1 week from Friday, August 23rd. So any donation that anybody wants to make, helpteresawin.com.
Helpteresawin.com. All the funds are going to Disabled But Not Really. And this is the charity or the organization that you chose to represent, to be the ambassador of, in order for you to participate in this Next Impactor event.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. And
Cool.
it's not, yeah, and that's it. So helpteresawin.com. It is about the people that are really not being trapped by their circumstances. Because you really, I mean, you start talking about like people comebacks. It's amazing. So Valerie, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. I'm so excited to have had this opportunity. And of course, I'll make sure to put your contact information. So if anybody's interested in reaching out to Teresa, asking questions about any of her story, but then also what she's up to now and how you can get involved or contribute, I'll be sure to share that with everyone. Next week, guys, on Time to Come Alive, I'm really happy to have a guest from New Zealand, a good friend, Tina Wakefield, and a fellow coach. She's been working in technology for many years and really wants to share her journey in being a woman in technology and some of the things that she's learned and how she's mentoring other women in the process. So really interested to hear. We're going to do things slightly different to honor her time zone. We're going to actually be having the conversation at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, so that way she can participate. It's early her morning the next day. I just want to be sure to let you all know, and I'll be sending this out so you'll know when to tune in with us. Teresa, again, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Loved having you. Love what you share. And the do-over, man, it couldn't have been better. This is talk about a comeback. Talk about a comeback. Amen to that. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.